Hello, good people, and welcome to Hillbilly Cat History, where today we dive even further into Priscilla, 1978, along with Mike Edwards and anybody else she was hanging out with at the time. Hi, Elizabeth. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Monica. Thank you all so much for coming. We're going to get started with a song. This is Threads and Dreams.
He wore a yellow shirt, black pants in the sun, rode horses through silence, then golf carts for fun. A ranch just 10 miles from the mansion's bright gate, where the myth met the morning and time learned to wait. George fixed the brickwork, the pipes in the ground, lit VP on shirt where no spotlight was found. Donna kept diaries, snapshots ahead of a father who labored, of a myth made by man. He didn't ask for gold, didn't dream of a crown, just a place to be still when the world spun around. In the hands of the quiet, in the stitch of a scene, he carried the weight of a half-finished dream. The holster was worn, the leather was cracked, BP etched in thread, no glory attached. Mike shaped the saddle, the belt and the law, so Elvis could ride through a myth he adored. He didn't ask for gold, didn't dream of a crown, just a place singing still. Mistakes on the sea, we drained the weight of the hearts and his teeth. Snowstorms in March, to fairgrounds at night. He chased beasts in motion and shadow and light. And Priscilla saw him, silhouette aglow, breathing in twilight, steady and slow. He didn't ask for gold, didn't dream of a throne, just laughter at breakfast, a place to call home. In the hush of the ranch, in the hands of the crew, they found what was real. To you.
Thank you all for gathering here at Hillbilly Cat History, where we remember together and listen for the echoes. And today we're going to hear those echoes from Priscilla Presley as we continue with the journey through this one National Enquirer article, which we are going to finish and then move on to her second article within the same issue. But first we're going to get started with what's on the bookshelf. We got a non-Elvis book, we got an Elvis book. Let's look at the non-Elvis book first. It is Queen's Gambit. Now, this is a book I have not read. It's a novel of Catherine Parr. So it's historical fiction based on a real person. And at one point it got marked down to $4.98, but I think I paid something like $1 wherever I got it from. Queen's Gambit. And the back is mostly just writing. One of these large paperback edition things. Let me read some of this. It says, divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived. This is the story of the one who survived. Widowed for the second time at age 31, Catherine Parr falls deeply for the dashing courtier Thomas Seymour and hopes at last to marry for love. Instead, she attracts the amorous attentions of the ailing, egotistical, and dangerously powerful Henry VIII. You might know him as Henry Tudor. No one is in a position to refuse a royal proposal, so haunted by the fates of his previous wives, 2 executions, 2 annulments, 1 death in childbirth, Catherine must wed Henry and rely on her wits and the help of her loyal servant Dot to survive the treacherous pitfalls of life as Henry's queen. Yet as she treads the razor's edge of court intrigue, she never quite gives up on love. So my interest in this is really the Henry Tudor connection. I don't know if you guys watched The Tudors when it was a series, but I always had been fascinated with English history and the Tudors, and that series has kind of, I guess, snowballed into all these other looks at different aspects of Henry Tudor in fiction and even in real biography and stuff like that. When you find a piece of history that's popular, then a lot of other people start to look at it. And I think this is kind of one of those. Rome did a similar thing when the HBO series Rome was on. You started seeing a lot of Rome stuff. Hi, Francis. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate seeing you here. And our Elvis book today is Elvis Live at 5, which is a novel. And this book was at my local library for $1 in one of their book sales, which is how I ended up getting it. I have read this book. I have not read the other one that we just looked at. So it sits on the bookshelf waiting to be read, and this one sits there already having been read. But it's kind of an interesting novel about the near future. Now, of course, when it was written was a little while ago, so the near future is kind of coming past. But the near future for this author meant that they were going to have holograms of Elvis, but they were going to be a near perfect hologram. But there'd only be one, and it would work for some television station. That's the station that would have developed it. And it only appeared on air on that station, and yet they managed to run it for president. And America elected this hologram of Elvis as president. And so it's just kind of an interesting look at what popularity and image is. And they've used Elvis as the lens or the focus for that. So it doesn't really teach you anything new about Elvis himself, but it was kind of a interesting angle at looking at Elvis. For $1, it's not bad as a novel. And Pamela Gray says that Wolf Hall is good about Thomas Cromwell. I don't think I've read any of those, so that might be interesting too. There was a lady on YouTube, and I was trying to look for her today, and I can't find her now. She was going through and doing like all of English history chronology through the movies, and then comparing all the because movies group around certain points in history, and so she would compare all the ones, like all the different Tudor movies and series, and try to tell you something about them. And she was really interesting. If I can find her name again and the name of her channel, I'm gonna post it somewhere, but I cannot find it. And that's one of the terrible things about YouTube is they have massive archives of stuff, but they're very difficult to search through and to find something that you can barely remember. It's interesting now, I can look on Google for something I barely remember out of my childhood, and it will pop up. But if I forget a video from a couple of weeks ago, like I can't remember the exact title, can't find it anywhere on YouTube. It's almost impossible. But now let's move over to the reason that we're all here. We want to see more about how this myth evolves with Priscilla Presley in 1978. Let's catch up to where we were. If you've got questions about these pictures, well, make sure you watch the previous episodes because we explain all that. And they're just waiting for you out there in the archive, and they sure need another watch. So feel free to head out to the channel and look for the live section and get all your questions answered. But we were on this picture of Priscilla with Mike Edwards. It's 1978. Priscilla says, in mid-1972, I resolved that life was not going to change. Elvis would have to go his way and I would have to go mine. And that's kind of where we left him on the last one. And Pamela says she thought it was just her who couldn't find things on YouTube. No, it's a known YouTube problem. They're sitting on almost 20 years of archives now, and there's just so much power in those archives, but they don't leverage it, in my opinion, correctly. Now, maybe if the YouTube archive or algorithm hurt me, get a hold of me and let me know. And for the right amount of enumeration, I can come and help with that so that we can get a much better search engine into this wonderful archive, because they've just got tons and tons and tons of stuff. It's just hard to get it to surface. We usually use the same search terms and the same junk keeps coming up. And Marion says she's got that problem too. So that's one of the reasons I put stuff into the post, but then you run into this problem. The posts become impossible to search after you got more than 10 or 15 of them out there. Within my own archive, it becomes impossible to search, even inside the studio that they provide for creators to go look for stuff. It's a data access issue. It really boils down to that. It's simple to solve. We could have this thing. We got AI that can handle this kind of thing. And Francis says that I get good book deals. No, I'm just cheap. I'm just very, very cheap. So I'm not going to pay more than that for a book, because I already have bookshelves and bookshelves of books I haven't read. Obviously, there's no reason for me to pay more than $1 to stack up yet another one. Plus, the internet has made it very easy to access lots and lots of knowledge. And so I've talked before about if you want to use your phone as a book, it's really easy now, especially if you got Android. I know exactly how I do it. It's all reader. And then I go to Gutenberg.org to start with. And if you could read everything you wanted to on Gutenberg, you've probably spent a whole lifetime right there. It's a little dated. Everything's more than 100 years old. But back to this particular article, we're actually going to switch over and look at the very end of the interview that we were looking at with Priscilla, and Rona Barrett was interviewing her. And it was just so interesting. Let me get this queued up to where we need it to be. About right here. This is about where we left off.
You had a problem. Could you sit with Elvis? Would he take the time to listen to what was aching you? And could he comfort you?
I very rarely went to him.
I noticed that Rhoda didn't ask if she comforted Elvis, if he brought any of his aches to her. But there is a question about Priscilla's aches.
With any problems. It's a very strange relationship. It was a love, but I never wanted to upset him because he took it so hard. If I were to come to him with a problem, it would hurt him deeply. So I worked it out myself.
That must have been very tough on you.
It was tough. But you make it, and you're able to weigh what you want most. Elvis's happiness meant a lot to me.
Did Elvis change when Lisa was born?
The father image came out in him like I can't tell you. I mean, I just never thought that when you see him on stage and to see him with a baby and through her life, how he handled it was beautiful.
Elvis's happiness was very important to her. That to watch him with Lisa Marie was very beautiful. And therefore, Priscilla took Lisa and she moved across the country to Los Angeles, where Lisa would be with Elvis as little as possible. It's kind of a strange thing. Now, she doesn't mention this thing about Lisa, but we all know that in the last several years of Elvis's life, that's where Lisa was. She wasn't in Memphis. Yet Priscilla recognizes that Lisa and Elvis had a beautiful relationship together. And she says that Elvis's happiness was important to her. Hi, Anna. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate seeing you here.
If there's just one thing that you would like Lisa to remember most about Elvis, what would that be?
Oh, gee, so many things. I think his humbleness toward people.
She would like Lisa to remember Elvis's humbleness. And Monica says that it was better to leave Elvis than to work it out with Elvis. That's strange too. And Debbie says Elvis did say the best thing that ever happened to him was Priscilla and Lisa, that he loved his family. And Marion says his happiness. Why have an affair about 1 year after the marriage? That sure wouldn't make him happy. And Debbie says that she would hope that Priscilla loved Elvis as much as he loved her. And Elizabeth says that doesn't even make sense to me. There were a lot of things in that Rona Barrett interview that didn't make sense to me, but let's return to the 1978 article. Priscilla says, I told Elvis I was leaving when he came home from one of his road trips. He was stunned. I don't think that's the way the story goes in Elvis and Me. I was thinking he was performing in Las Vegas and she came and she told him there was a scene, and it's become a very controversial scene about exactly what she was saying happened. Yet here she describes it as he came home from being on tour, on road trips. Well, she doesn't even say tour. She says road trips. I mean, it's not really a road trip, right? But it's business. But he was stunned. And Priscilla says, Elvis could have offered me the world, and I would not have stayed with him. The romantic, physical part of our love had disappeared. I still loved him as the father of my daughter, but not as a lover. So Priscilla is very blunt here, They were not having physical relations at the end of their relationship. Now, that's a little different than what she says happened on that date. There was apparently a physical relationship, but putting that aside, she's saying that at the end she'd been driven to this because that physical relationship of love was not there. So he was not her lover. He was now her baby daddy, the father of her daughter. And Elizabeth says at least Lisa was the most important to him. And that she doesn't think Priscilla was the most important to him, especially later on. And Debbie says that both of them had affairs on each other. They should have worked it out and went to marriage counseling, but neither of them wanted to. Well, neither of them moved into a communicative posture with the other. That's definitely true. And Monica says that it doesn't make sense. And Marion says that Lisa gave him back his life and he did not. And Frances says that she thinks Elvis got to the point where he just had to tolerate Priscilla because she was Lisa's mother. And he tried to be cordial because he wanted to make sure he was always in his daughter's life. I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think he also let himself get carried away into this feeling that he had for mothers in general towards Priscilla. That he tried to always see her in the best possible light. And that he got, others would attack her around him. And it's kind of natural when you have an ex-wife that they're going to side with you and they'll say things about the other. But I think that made him clamp down a little bit and become even more defensive about her in some ways. And then she'd go and do things that would prove that these people were right. And that, it's so hard when you're in that position to try to, you're pulled in all these different directions. And there's always Lisa. There's always Lisa that's being affected by all of these things. And Monica says that she already loved another man when she was leaving Elvis. And Elizabeth says that Priscilla was seeing the other man and moved in with him a year later from when she started seeing him. Well, let's get back to this article because she's going to say something about that. But it wouldn't have mattered what Elvis said. She wasn't going to stay with him. That is important right there. That tells you that she'd made this determination in her own mind. And when she made the determination, even before she said it, that's when the marriage was over. And who knows when exactly that was. It might have been before she got with Mike. It might have been after. But then she's also saying this thing about the romantic physical part of the relationship. I don't feel like that could be 100% Elvis. I think it has to come from both sides. And then she says, besides, another man had entered my life. A gentle, kind man named Mike Stone, a karate champion. I had no regrets about leaving all that wealth behind. So Priscilla says there is another man. She's confirmed what you're all saying. It was Mike Stone, as you've all been hinting at. And she moved in with him. She doesn't say she moved in with him, but she says there's another man that had entered her life. And she says had entered, so this was before she got divorced. She's acknowledging that in this statement. It's not very clear, but it's acknowledged here. And she's got this thing about Mike's a champion too. He's a karate champion. She has to put that in there because Elvis is a superstar. He's the greatest superstar in the world. How do you measure up to Elvis? Well, he's a karate champion. Mike Stone, kind, gentle. because that's what you think of when you think of Karate Champion. And then she says she has no regrets about leaving all that wealth behind. And she's saying this in 1978 after 2 divorce settlements in which she's gone after wealth both times. She didn't have any issue leaving it behind at this time. She still says that. She's still able to acknowledge that fully. At the time she left, she didn't mind leaving all that wealth behind. Now, I see that as a statement that she knew that wealth was secure in bank accounts until she could come back and claim it as her own, because she did not leave the wealth behind. And she's stating this after she's acquired quite a bit of the wealth. So it's just a disingenuous statement. But I don't know whether she believes that she's fooling the people she's saying this to, or if this is the way she sees it inside her own head. She really believes that she walked away from all of Elvis's wealth. Even as she sits and gives this interview while collecting money from Elvis's estate. And the reason she didn't marry the last guy she was with is because she was getting $8,500 a month in alimony. That had become clear in one of the news articles. And Pamela says she makes it seem like Elvis was not a gentle and kind man. That is absolutely implied when she talks about Mike. And Monica says, leave wealth. She got a lot of money from Elvis and did it for many years. And Elizabeth says she's still living off of his money. That's true. Or at least his name. It's all the same, isn't it? All the wealth has been generated by his name. Now, Priscilla has done work. I'm not going to take that away from her. She has done things. And if she had not done them, the wealth would not have continued to rise in the way that it has. But at this moment in 1978, when she says this, she's not done any of those things. And she's collecting the wealth from the estate as it comes in. The revenue streams are still coming in, and she's still required to get these payments from the estate until everything's been paid out. And then she says, I had never thought of it as being my wealth. It all belonged to Elvis. Now, she has also said in this same article that she never worried about money. She just wrote checks. That it wasn't a burden for her because somebody else worried about the money. She didn't have money issues. All that money she was spending all belonged to Elvis. So I think this is really a statement that it's not so much the wealth that belongs to Elvis, because the spending belongs to Priscilla. What belongs to Elvis is the responsibility of earning the wealth and ensuring that it's available to be spent. It all belongs to Elvis. That's the belonging. Now, when it needs to be spent in certain ways, Priscilla's there to make sure that it's taken and spent. That's what she's coming back for in the divorce settlements. She says, we just weren't meant to live together for the rest of our lives. Move. I think I got a picture of Mike here. There's the happy couple there. You can see Priscilla and Mike Stone at the top. This is part of this article. And Monica says the worst thing is that she dated Stone behind Elvis's back. And Marion says that she drove very far just to meet him and become his lover. Yeah, there was effort put into this. It wasn't just a happenstance. Monica says that Elvis met Stone sometime while P and him saw each other secretly. That's correct. They would both be standing there looking at it. Isn't that terrible? And Elizabeth says, I agree, that was pretty bad for over a year. Now, we did hear the whole Nancy Sinatra thing and Elvis. And of course, they didn't really cheat together, but there was this lovers' tension between them, and Priscilla was there for some of that very early in the marriage. So I guess some of that's felt on both sides. I don't, we haven't been through the entire length of the relationship. But yes, whichever side it's happening with, it's creating a lot of terrible issues for a marriage. And Debbie says that Elvis did give her money, but she wanted more. Yeah, but she left all the wealth behind, didn't care at all. She thought of that as Elvis's money. She just wanted more, like you're saying. She wanted more. It's all. And the thing is this the way that Priscilla perceives herself? Or is she intentionally making these things up to put into the press? Is this the myth she wants us to believe, or is this the myth she believes? And Debbie says she thinks Priscilla wanted to buy a house in Beverly Hills. And Monica says that this is the betrayal of the worst kind to her. And Pamela says it's funny how she managed to get out of the house without anyone knowing. Well, she didn't. The others were, they went along with this. And this is another reason that Elvis can't trust people anymore in the 70s. People were covering up for Priscilla. And there was supposed to be a chain of loyalty that went to Elvis, not to Priscilla, to Elvis. And Elizabeth says they both cheated, but she continued to date him. That's true. She built a relationship with him. And Debbie says that Elvis was with Susan Henning from the 68 special. And she doesn't know who did it, but two wrongs don't make a right, especially because they had a daughter together. There's a lot of stuff going on during the relationship. That's absolutely right. Both sides. And Monica says it is terrible. And Marion says that she heard Elvis was faithful in the first year. Well, we've never mapped it out. But what we've seen in 67 is that he went and spent time alone in a closet type area with Ann-Margret. She doesn't say that anything happened other than that he may have declared that he loved her. But she doesn't exactly say that. So it's very difficult to determine what happened there, but it doesn't appear that he cheated on Priscilla there, or even started a new relationship, or even fired up an old one. And then there's some hanky-panky that went on with Nancy Sinatra, according to Nancy, but again, it was at the hanky-panky level and didn't proceed forward, according to Nancy. But that's as far as we've really made it, looking at Elvis so far. And in that period, no one's popped up in Priscilla that that Priscilla's been with that we've seen yet. And that's one of the reasons I want to finish off 67 and move into 68. But we're stuck here talking about Priscilla and the tabloids because, we got into this article now and it's kind of fun. And Debbie says it wasn't cheating or an affair because neither of them were married. When Elvis and Ann-Margret were seeing each other. That's true, but we're talking about in 67, the month after Elvis was married. While he's making Speedway, he went and he saw Ann-Margret. He had all the guys with him. And Ann says that he said something to her alone in private. And she hints that he told her he still loved her. Now, they were both married at that time, and she doesn't say they did anything physical together. And the guys were waiting right outside the door, along with Vernon. So, but it just shows that there's a lot of people pulling at Elvis's heart. It's not clear in either story, either Nancy's or Ann-Margret's, that Elvis truly was doing these things that they're saying. It's more like they both have intense love for Elvis and they're trying to attach him to themselves after he was married. But it's just not clear. And Elizabeth says that Priscilla was also dating in 67 right after Lisa was born. She said that in her book. So that would be very early 68, and we haven't quite got there yet. That would be probably like May, I'm going to guess is what she's talking about. And that's another reason we want to get in and do those timelines, because she's as sloppy as everybody else at her timelines. And Debbie says they are making a movie of Ann-Margret and they want Lindsay Lohan to play the part. That would be an interesting movie. Now we've reached the end of this particular article and we're going to flip over into a 1979 TV interview with Priscilla and then finish off a new article in this particular magazine that Priscilla also did. But let's start and take a look at this other interview. Now, we're going to watch this at our grandma's house. Even though it's 1978, this is a 20-year-old television. It's 1958 television. So, you know, when I was a kid, my grandparents still had a television that was at least 10 years old. They used to keep them a long time back then. But let's see what Priscilla has to say. It's actually September of 1979. So this is about a year after the article that we just read was published. Well, that was the wrong button.
We're very happy to have with us as our guest this morning, Priscilla Presley. She lives now in California. But you're in and out of Memphis very often now, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
And she is now the spokesperson for Wella Balsam, and that's all that hair conditioning?
Hair products, that's right.
What's your role as spokesperson for them?
Well, I'll be doing commercials, doing print work, and doing some public appearances for Wella.
What the girls want to know, are you really going to wash your hair every day?
I wash my hair every day anyway. I swim every day. So that the big problem is having to get all the chlorine out of my hair right away, you know. So it's great because all of Wella products are absolutely fantastic. The conditioner and the cholesterol. So I'm learning myself all about it.
So Priscilla in 1979, she's got a job. I don't think she's got a job in 78 when she's talking in this article. She didn't really mention any specific thing that she was doing, but here she's now a spokeswoman for a beauty care line. And she's talking about their hair care products, and they've opened up the interview by allowing her to talk about these products. This is a local Memphis station. So this is a hometown Elvis station, and that's why they're very interested in Priscilla.
About the products, and they've worked great. They brought the shine back to my hair.
What do people ask you when you see them in public now? They're always asking about Elvis.
What do they ask me?
Yeah.
They usually ask me what I'm doing now.
And so people want to know, what is Priscilla doing now? And so now she's got something she can say. She's the Wella products. And Debbie's asking who remembers the Wella shampoos. I don't remember them at all. Hi, Tammy. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate seeing you here. Tammy says she would have married Elvis. Hi, Roy. He says Colonel Roy says hi. Thank you for coming, Roy. Appreciate seeing you here. So this is Priscilla. She's now entering the world of working in show business. She's done a couple of other things. They're going to talk about it. So she did have other jobs, but now she's more of a public face.
Yeah, well, we established you don't have your boutique any longer.
No, we don't. We don't. I don't. I sold it to my partner about 2 years ago. I had it for 4 years. It was very successful. It was a great experience, and I met a lot of wonderful people. Did a lot.
So she had a boutique, and if you've ever wondered about that boutique, you can see an interview with, it was the Biss and Boo boutique, and Biss did an interview with those Elvis girls, and it's a really good interview. And so if you wonder and you want to know more about Priscilla and that business, you can hear it directly from her partner, what she thought of Priscilla, how often she met Elvis, what he had to do with the business, if anything. It's a very interesting, in-depth, it's about an hour and a half, I think. So excellent, excellent interview over at those Elvis girls, who also did an interview with Hillbilly Cat History before I started the channel, and we talked about Bibles that Elvis owned. So there's that video up on their channel as well.
Designing.
Is this an entrance or a pre-entrance into possibly a theatrical or show business career for you? Could you conceive that in the near future?
I'm not really thinking about a show business career because I'm not a fast mover. I'm a very slow mover, and I like to take things as they come. I really would like to devote my time to this product, you know, and really work for it. I'm not that interested in a movie career or a series. I like my free time too, so whatever I can do.
Listen, that's a precious, precious commodity.
Yes, it
Freedom,
is.
believe me. I don't have enough of it, but if you get it, hold on to it.
Well, a lot of people have asked me, one of the questions was, you know, how you've always maintained a low profile. How can you be doing this? But it's not going to demand that much of me. I mean, I'll be seen in some of the ads, but my face is in all the movie magazines and the Inquirer anyway, you know, so that's not going to be any different. And then I'll be doing a commercial, so it's not like I'm constantly, you know, out in public.
So she says that her face is already all over the tabloids, and now she's just going to get paid for it. So from a business strategy, I do have to admit she's noticed that people want to see her face. It's selling magazines, but she's not getting paid for it unless she's done interviews for those magazines or sold them exclusive pictures. But anybody could just print articles about her and use pictures that have already been publicized. It's a fairly low risk copyright kind of thing to do, and that's what's going on in the tabloids. But she specifically mentions the National Enquirer. And Debbie's mentioning that Biss and Boo was in Beverly Hills. I think that's correct. It had a couple of locations. Biss talks about the first one during the interview, and she gets really detailed about it. And Marion's mentioning that Priscilla worked for Graceland after Vernon's death. I think financial management. She's going to slightly mention that in this interview, what she's doing. And Debbie's asking if Elvis gave her money for that boutique. I think he funded part of it. And ultimately, even if she funded it, that money came from Elvis, ultimately. You know, you could say that she earned it or that it was hers because that's the way that the law saw it. And that's true as well. But it originated, it can be traced back directly to Elvis's bank accounts. And Monica says that she remembers the Wella products, but not Priscilla promoting them. And Tammy says that Priscilla'd be a nobody without Elvis. And Debbie says that Elvis talks about how he saw Priscilla there and they both hugged each other. And then a few days, he gets fired. And Monica says she was interested in a movie career, wasn't she? That is the beginning of what's going on here. This is her stepping stone into a public-facing life. A Hollywood kind of life. And Debbie saying that she made movies and some with O.J. Simpson. So yeah, she did. But this is right before that. And she's probably really jealous of Ginger because Ginger's doing some movies right at this point. And Debbie points out the Naked Gun. Yeah, that's going to be later in the 80s. Oh, that Billy Smith got fired a few days after she hugged him. Yeah, but that might have been Billy's own fault. Like, Billy is, bless him, he's a difficult man to get along with sometimes. And so let's hear what else Priscilla's got to say. I think this next part's going to be really interesting.
Because I really do value my private life.
I would think traveling with and for Wella, a product that women need, a product that women use, it would be very easy for you to move into the role. It's something that you don't have to get up and get ready for.
Right, except this morning.
Well, it's real early.
I don't even know I'm here right now.
Yeah, but really, if it's a woman's product, something you use, something you like, it's very easy. So you can enjoy travel and meeting people and doing what you want to do and really telling the truth about the product.
Well, you have to believe in the product, and it took a long time. And I went to the factory and in New Jersey, and I met the heads of Wella, and they're wonderful people. And you have to believe in the product, and it's really. I was shocked when I found out how much care really goes into this product. So to believe in it really helps. And
okay, that wasn't the interesting part. She's gonna say something about tabloids somewhere in this interview.
You mentioned a minute ago the Enquirer and the movie magazines as one that they have written a lot about. Are they factual in what they are?
Oh my gosh, no.
Oh my gosh, no. Are the National Enquirer stories factual? And she says, oh my gosh, no. Now, the last thing we read from Priscilla in the National Enquirer, just 1 year before this particular interview, she says, Elvis and I just weren't meant to live together for the rest of our lives. And it's a direct quote. The whole article is full of direct quotes. But what's being said in the National Enquirer, it's not accurate. Oh, no. Oh, no.
You have no recourse, really, to...
Well, there's been a few articles that I've wanted to take some action on, but I guess that draws more attention to it, and then I don't want to do that either, so you have to sit quietly. And
now, Priscilla says you've got to sit quietly, that there were some articles she wanted to do something about. Now, I'm probably being a little mean here, but it seems to me that she was talking back. She gets quoted a lot in the tabloids that we've looked at, and they're direct quotes. Now, there are articles where they're quoting people that are unnamed sources around her. Those are false attacks against Priscilla. I have to side with her on those. But at the same time, she's accepting payment from these tabloids to give them direct quotes. So she's participating in the very actions that she's saying something about here. And so these stories that she can't take action against, it's probably because she's accepted payment from the publishers. And part of that payment was probably, hey, you can't sue us later for other stuff. It was probably all covered in the same agreement. We're going to pay you more money for your quotes than we would normally pay anyone, but that kind of covers us for things we've already said you didn't like. And maybe for some things we're going to say in the future. I don't know that that's really the way those things are structured. I'm just guessing. I'm throwing that out there as a speculation. But she is absolutely participating in all of the tabloid shenanigans. And yet she's saying that there's nothing she can do about it. And she can't speak out because that would bring more attention. And yet her face is on the cover of some things, and her name is on the cover of others because she's actually talking inside them. And Debbie says that they make the stories sensational. They do, but she also participated by giving them sensational quotes. And Pamela is asking, are any of her stories factual? That's an interesting question as well. She seems to be indicating they're not because they're in the National Enquirer. And she seems very truthful when she's here on television saying that these National Enquirer stories, they're not true. And Marion says, I'm not being mean, that she's all about money. And Debbie says that she agrees she should not have taken the money. Yeah, I think that once you've participated with any of the tabloids, you're no longer in a position to talk about any of them. And that's what all of these people, including Ginger, they found themselves in this position because they'd accepted the money. And Frances says that she doesn't think so, that she forgets, she doesn't think that any of Priscilla's stories are factual, that she forgets the story she has told, so she makes up another one. Ian, I don't know if that's because she's purposely lying or because she lives in a moldable world in her mind. Like, it changes, her viewpoint and perspectives change as she moves through life to fit the situation. And that she doesn't see it as a change within herself. I know people like this, and that's why I think she might be like that. But I don't know. There's the other side where she's very aware of every single thing she's saying, and she's crafting each statement like, somebody played 4D chess in order to manipulate those around her. Now, I don't see her in that manner. I don't think she could be that 4D chess player, but I don't know. And Elizabeth says she's still all about money to this day. She's definitely hyper-focused on money. Then again, people are trying to steal money from her all the time. So I don't think she ever learned to handle money as gracefully as Elvis did. However, Elvis did that by burdening another with it, like Vernon and Colonel Parker. So if you've ever read The Picture of Dorian Gray, it's about this man who has this painting of himself. And every evil thing the man does is reflected in the painting, but not in the man. So he stays beautiful, but the painting becomes terrible. And in a way, Elvis would take some of those things that he didn't like to do, that were the burdens that, in his case, would have made him look like the Dorian Gray if he hadn't had the painting. And then he's transferred those to these other guys, these other people around him, and therefore he doesn't have that weight of that responsibility on his shoulders. And it's a good tactic on his part. I'm not saying anything bad about Elvis because he had a lot of responsibility. When you have that much, it is like being a king or a president, and you have to offload certain pieces of it and completely trust others with it because no single person can hold this kind of responsibility load. And Tammy says that Priscilla Presley is all about the money. And Frances says everything Priscilla does is solely for money profit to herself. Hi, Luann. Thank you so much for coming. Happy coffee. I know you just got up. And Monica says that Priscilla's lying, that she's not dumb, and that she's had plans, in her opinion. And I think that's a very valid way to look at it. I think as she's gotten older, I definitely think she's moved more into plans and manipulation. And Marion says that some say nowadays she only answers questions she reads before a filmed interview. That's probably true. And again, not a terrible press strategy, especially if you don't want to get asked something you don't want to hear. That's a lot of politicians do that same thing. Now, is it good for, in politicians' case? No, it's terrible for politicians because we're supposed to be able to know what they're thinking. They're supposed to be open and honest with us, but there's no requirement for Priscilla to be open and honest with us. Although it would be nice. It sure would be nice. And Marion says that she's also convinced that Priscilla had a plan. And Luann says that, yeah, she's getting up late again. You're not really getting up late, Luann. We've shifted hours, so you're getting up early. But we'll be shifting back at the end of the month, and hopefully you'll get that extra hour of sleep again. But unfortunately, we've reached the end of this episode. We still got a lot of this interview to go. It's been an interesting one so far. But right now, we're going to have to go out of here on a song like we always do. I think this time it'll be Glass Slippers You Left Behind about Ginger. And move away a little bit from Priscilla. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. I really enjoy all your comments and your chats and your likes and your subscriptions. And definitely be sure to tell other people about Hillbilly Cat History because we need more subscriptions. Because when we hit 1,000, that's when YouTube's going to start actually putting out this message to other people. And maybe we'll get some more in here and grow the group, be able to let other people in on this almost secret knowledge that we have about Elvis at this point. Because there's only a few of us that are ever get to see it. But until I see you guys all again, you all keep on taking care of business. This is Glass Slippers You Left Behind.
I was sitting by your side in Lisa's room with your hand in mine when you whispered of December in a church you'd already seen. You spoke of rosebuds on my dress, gold sparks shining when I turned, and I felt like a storybook princess in a world I'd finally earned. You said you'd tell the world in Memphis, 2 weeks and you'd say my name. Talk to children in the quiet like a candle's gentle flame. But the morning stole you from me like a breath that slipped away, and the plans we made together all dissolved in a single day. Oh love, I'm walking through the shadows with the glass slippers you left behind. I'll reach for you in the silence, but only memory answers mine. A part of me went with you where the spirit and the body meet, and I'm learning how to live again with one heart broken, one still beating at your feet. You said life and death were woven, 2 threads in the same design. But I shook as I knelt beside you, calling your name like it still was mine. Priscilla cried and ran from the doorway, her world falling like shattered glass. And I held the ache inside me as the moment turned and passed. You always said that love was like a spark God placed in every soul. Now I search for it in the darkness, trying to trust what I can't control. If distance closes in the ending, then maybe you're not far at all. Maybe you're just in the quiet where the spirit hears the call. Oh love, I'm walking through the shadows with the glass slippers you left behind. I reach for you in the silence, but only memory answers mine. A part of me went with you where the spirit and the body meet, live again with one heart broken, one still beating at your feet. I'll keep the dreams you gave me, no one can take them away. And I'll carry your light inside me till we meet again someday. For love is stronger than sorrow, and faith is stronger than fear. And I feel you still beside me, soft as a whisper in my